exhausted. This passion is never exhausted. We the stars, we the stars. Young stars, the young stars. We the stars, we the stars. The young stars, the young stars. We the stars, we the stars. The young stars, the young stars. Still of attention, but now we going on a mission. The only one with decisions. Whoa, whoa. Sometimes you gotta be a little outrageous. Sometimes you gotta be outlandish. Sometimes you gotta be outrageous. Sometimes you gotta be outlandish. She's smiling me, falling me. When I love my little girl, Mary.
Welcome everyone to this special Frame Voyager watch party where we're going to get to see the brand new Alexa 35 and ARRI finally really push itself into 4K, which is fascinating in of itself. I am here with our guest, Tim Buttner, which at this point, I'm not sure if he's a guest or just almost permanent resident on this channel. As he
It's getting close to that, yeah.
Yeah. Glad you're here as well. Tim has had some experience with ARRI, probably more so than I have. Definitely more so than I have. So glad to have you along. Get your insights.
I'm
know.
excited. This has been a long time coming for them. Like, I mean, we're talking like 3 years of rumors here.
I know. Oh, it's. I mean, it seems like the hype is going to be met with a really great camera. And I guess that's a good thing with them, is at least you have all this hype building, and they at least seem like they're going to deliver with it. You know, really wanted to make sure that this camera was good. And I know there's been a lot of release of leaked brochures and stuff, so a lot of people already kind of know what it's going to be. But, you know, we're kind of interested to see some of the footage and stuff. And for those of you who've not been here with us for a watch party before, we, at some point, will, whenever they get started, we'll be able to show you over here to the left the video, and we'll watch along, we'll make comments along with it, and we'll answer any questions as we go along. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see what's happening.
Yeah, I'm very excited. And basically, the leaked brochure told me enough about them fulfilling so many promises already. I mean, I need to see the footage at this point. But, like, one of my complaints with the Alexa Mini was always you had to take the viewfinder, plug it in to change settings on the camera, or you had to go through their wireless protocol, which was never the easiest thing to deal with on set. So what I love about the original Alexas is they had the side LCD, you know, which you could just change settings. It was super easy, wonderful. And it looks like they put that into this new body, which is about the same size, slightly bigger maybe than the Alexa Mini. But yeah, they added that, and it's going to make it easier.
What would you say the shape of this new camera is, Tim?
I don't know. Maybe a cube box. I don't know.
I don't know if I can say that anymore. I might get in trouble for saying box camera. But yeah. But
well, it's not Black Magic's box.
No, it's not. Oh. So I think some cool things about it is Super 35 still. And I think that really goes to show that, like, everyone is always going towards the full frame sensors. And full frame, there's nothing wrong with full frame sensors, but I think Super 35, you're still seeing, like, that's where a lot of people like to be, especially ARRI. And I think that's something to pay attention to, where I know some people were saying, oh, everything's going to full frame, but Super 35 still seems to be very much in for the long haul.
when you look at it, though, not only did they have their leak, but then Red basically came out and said, "Oh, but we've got an 8K Super 35 as well, for the Raptor." So no, Super 35 has been no matter what, motion picture film was always running through the camera vertically. That's been the standard for a century. So when you really go back to the full frame argument, we were shooting VistaVision essentially, where the film was running horizontally through the camera, traditionally for VFX plates or like special effects type of purposes. But when cinematographers started playing around with still photography cameras for video, like the 5D during the revolution that happened a decade ago, that's when the full frame argument started to occur because, you had a whole bunch of still photographers who didn't know anything really about the difference between cinema cameras and the still cameras. They were just like, well, no, full frame's better because it's a bigger sensor, not understanding that APS-C was closer to Super 35, and that's traditionally where Super 35 has lived for the longest time since about Super 35 really came about in the 80s, but before then you still had, no matter what, the film was still running vertically through the camera.
Right.
So it's been a standard, and all the classic cinema lenses are meant for it. And let's face it, if you want to shoot really good glass, use some of that amazing glass that works with Super 35 and existed, 50 years ago.
Well, and I would say too that like if you're using full frame, you have a little bit less lens cut, right? You're limited in your kind of lens use. Where I feel like Super 35 is probably a good kind of middle ground for that for lenses, right? Or am I thinking that wrong? Yeah,
well,
because I know
full frame lenses, full frame VistaVision lenses. There's a lot that are covering that. It's more expensive to manufacture them, especially for cinema. You look at those cinema lenses that are being marketed for the larger format cameras. They are pretty expensive, but we're not talking like Super 35 expensive lenses are still expensive too. I mean, we're talking about just to buy an Ingenue zoom, you're still talking about like they have a $100,000 what is it, the 30 to 300 millimeter zoom lens that is just like a it's like 97,000 or whatever. But like again, that covers Super 35. It doesn't cover full frame.
Yep. So you kind of have that where I like Super 30. Like I don't mind Super 35. It's actually kind of nice. In my opinion,
the unit most cinematographers understand, because you can refer to, I want to replicate a shot from this movie, and you're talking about a movie from like, say, how about this? Dog Day Afternoon, in the 70s. Guess what? That's close enough to Super 35 that you'll be able to do the research. See, they used this lens and this camera combination, and boom. Okay, you're going to be able to replicate that. There's shots that people can refer to, and then through the basic unit of film language how to translate it.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why it is kind of funny, like seeing like everyone saying that the death of the Super 35 sensor. But if ARRI's still going with it, I mean, you like I said, the one video I did, like it kind of makes sense to like watch what ARRI's doing, because they're almost like the cornerstone of the film industry, where they like move at such a slow pace and like are now really just getting into 4K. But it hasn't really mattered because their image still looks, they're more focused on the image than any external kind of technical data. Whatever makes the image the best, I think, is kind of what they're. So it's always cool to like see what they do.
They also don't do a whole lot of compression. This is one of the other massive things that you go into a lot of different places when the debate happens. They've had ARRI RAW for the longest time, but they've also had ProRes in their cameras for the longest time. Red only started adding ProRes after a certain point because they had Red RAW, but Red RAW had a lot of compression going on. And yeah, Red RAW is great. However, ARRI RAW and ARRI specifically for ProRes, a lot of television shows in the last decade were shooting on ARRI cameras, shooting in 1920 by 1080 ProRes 444, and that was good enough. That was good enough to go to television. It was good enough to be there. Then, of course, you had ARRI RAW, and they start. Like you look at a show that's hugely popular, Game of Thrones. A lot of that was being shot ProRes. 1920 by 1080 pros 444, and then they started like a lot of the VFX stuff.
Crazy.
Yeah, it was shot ARRI raw maybe for like more resolution and extra levels of bit depth and everything. But then they really started shooting the whole show in the later seasons completely in ARRI raw because they had the budget and they needed it, and of course the VFX went up like crazy too. But that's
For sure.
a case
That's
point.
kind of
And then you have films which were shooting ARRI raw, and
Exactly. Yeah. It is kind of fascinating to see kind of like the history of it, which if you guys have not caught, I'm sure most of you have, I'm kind of going back and doing some historical videos, I would say. There's going to be a series of them. Right now, we've kind of gotten kicked off with, we've done a little bit of ARRI's history in the one video I've made. And then we just recently, the one I've gotten a little bit in trouble, well, I don't know, in trouble for, is the abandoned camera series with the Ursa line of cameras. So we're going to be moving our way through some other camera companies. And it's
there's definitely abandoned cameras in there, like, and you and I have been talking about it, like, I can't, so you put it at the little poll, like, or like whatever the YouTube story thing that is asked, anyone know about the 28K sensor from Red?
Yeah.
I mean, it's so funny because of the fact, like, I know you and I started talking about that one, and I'm just like, God, whatever happened to this crazy sensor that Red announced and never did anything with?
The one that was like this big.
Yeah, the one that it's like, oh yeah, that's the one they want to put in the phone for sure, because obviously they want to have their holographic phone that no one's gonna buy.
Exactly. Here's a good question from Legit Studios: is the Alexa 35 the main camera, or ARRI release a bigger version with more features? I've heard stuff in some chats and some other places that this is supposed to be an A camera, which
This
brings
is
us
supposed
to
to be the all around A camera, B camera. It's supposed to be everything in one.
Yep. Which, let me see. Oh, we're getting a ton of votes coming in now. Let me see here. About what people think the price will be. So I'm going to give people a couple more minutes. There's a poll up there at the top of the chat that I've asked to see what people think the...
I'm gonna refer to this one comment from DVS Bombsy. It's about the quality of pixel other than sensor size, which ARRI is nailing. That's absolutely true. It's been a conversation in this industry for a long time. Better pixels as opposed to more pixels. And I think ARRI with this new camera, they've definitely done that, because it's the same resolution, 4.6K, as what the original Reds were essentially, and then even what the Ursa Mini 4.6K series of sensors have been, from the Ursa Mini, the Ursa Mini Pro, the G2. And when you go to that 4.6K, it's a good sensor resolution for covering, a little bit more than 4K for DCI and all that. But then it's the better pixels. You can tell whatever they've done, they're claiming 17 stops. And when ARRI claims stops at dynamic range,
it's probably higher.
Yeah, because they were saying 14 stops for years, and everyone's like, it's more like 15. It's, and like, Blackmagic claimed 15 stops, and we love them. It's definitely very close. But you put it again, and it's like ARRI's claiming 14, and this is for the 4.6K sensor that I'm talking about here. So ARRI's claiming 14, Blackmagic's claiming that they get 15, but ARRI's definitely got like a half a stop to one more stop in the highlights for sure. And that's just how it goes. So then, of course, people used to look at the Reds and say, oh, they're claiming 16 and a half stops, but then you take it and you put it against the ARRI claiming 14 stops, and ARRI would kill it.
Yep. Yeah, it's so fascinating. Okay, so how much will it cost? I think you and I can put in some guesses here. So
I'm saying 60.
You're saying 60? Okay. So you'd actually be within the majority. I'm probably going to pick around there. So I did a poll with 4 different answers, 40 to 70, 20 to 40, 10,000 to 20,000, and then 0 to 10,000, which I labeled as wishful thinking. So at the top was 40 to 70 with 45% of the vote, 20 to 40,000 with 33% of the vote, and 13% was the 10,000 to 20,000 range, and 7% thought that it was going to be within $10,000.
If they actually release, first off, their abandoned camera right now is their mirror, basically. I've not seen anything happen with that for the longest time. But if they ever release a sub $10,000 camera, it's probably going to be something in that line that maybe has a Super 16 sensor and is more like a documentary type of camera, like that a mirror was meant to be.
Mm-hmm. For sure, it's gonna. Yeah, I'm trying to think what my guess. I'm gonna say. Oh gosh, it's so hard with ARRI because they just don't. It's not under any like price convention. I'm gonna say you said 60, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say 40. So
40? So
yeah.
same price as an Alexa Mini.
Yeah. Maybe. Maybe the minis will drop to like 20. I mean,
I'm going to say that you're going to see a lot of Alexa Minis going for used for. You could probably pick. You can actually pick up an ARRI Classic for under 10,000 these days. I want to say I saw one go for like 8,000 recently or something like that.
It's not bad.
Yeah, I mean, for the camera that they shot, Hugo, well, maybe not Gravity, 2013, yeah, close enough. But again, like the Alexa Classic was a beast. It was awesome.
Yeah. DVS, yes, thank you everyone. If you could give a thumbs up on this video, that helps us get seen a little bit more and beat Aries, who only has 74 likes on their live stream right now. So but we will be again, for those of you all joining, we will be showing the video over here. I'm gonna pull it up. We're still waiting. It looks like there's about 12 minutes left until their live stream starts. So we'll be just like this and commenting and talking about the live stream over here to our left. It's gonna be fun. I'm excited, and I think we're all excited about a new camera.
Oh yeah, well, especially from ARRI. I mean,
I
still remember the day they announced that first Alexa LF, which was huge. The Alexa LF was a big body camera, and I just remember going, "Oh my God, look at this footage!" And it's like, this is rental only, isn't it? I mean, the Alexa 65 is definitely a rental only, but I'm pretty sure initially the LF was only rental, and then they did the LF Mini, and you could buy that.
I really want to do another deep dive into their history and their cameras, and I know we do. I think we've identified an abandoned camera from ARRI, right?
There's kind of a few now. There's the D20, D21, which was precursor to the Alexa, and then you basically have the Amira. I've not seen anything happen with Amira since.
Yeah, so we'll be bringing those to you at some point as our abandoned camera series continues, and I get more in trouble with people.
Oh, God. I still say, when you get to the SI2K, that's the camera that's like the funniest one.
I know. I can't wait to talk about that one. Someone asked a quick Legit Studios. I'm sorry I keep bringing you up. It was just a good talking about color science. I am interested because they have updated their color science, it sounds like, for this to get more accurate colors. Is the Reveal color science, which I guess is the collective name. It's going to be interesting to see. I think we really, like Tim and I are really excited to see actual footage from this camera to see what it looks like. Now, I mean, you can only tell so much over YouTube, right? I mean, with those, but I still think you can still see the difference.
The shit out of anything. It's just absurd. I've actually really commented on people's videos, which are lens comparisons of whatever, and it's like, hey, guys, could you upload this to Vimeo, because at least their compression is a little bit better, and they give you the ability to like turn the download option on so that you can download the original, because you could upload to Vimeo at least full ProRes 422 HQ quality video content that can be enabled to be downloaded. And that's kind of the only. I still remember way back when with Apple and their trailers, you used to be able to download the trailers for movies, and I was downloading the full 1080. So like, it's like, oh yes, the new Lord of the Rings trailer, yes. And I'd like spend like 20 hours downloading it over like dial-up internet back then.
That's so funny. Are we in the chat? Elliot Roach. Yes, we are actively watching the chat. So if you guys have any questions, let us see. I'll pull up the interesting ones. We got a lot of people commenting and stuff. So
here's a comment in there. There was Amira rocks, but then Amira and Alexa Mini are the same camera. They use the same sensor. it's just the body design is different enough, you know. Yeah, I mean, same camera, sure, because it's the same sensor. They haven't changed the sensor in 12 years.
Yeah, now this new sensor is supposed to be, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what comes out of it, because if it really is that good, you know, maybe this will start pushing some other people to do some other things as well, because I feel like everyone in the industry always kind of pays attention when like ARRI comes out with something new, which I have to say it's very interesting, and you kind of respect them as a company for being able to be really one of the big film camera companies that successfully translated their standard of camera over to the digital side. I mean, because that's a whole different, you know, way of doing things. So, and to continue that kind of that standard of excellence through a massive change in the industry from film to digital, it's kind of impressive, because companies don't usually make that transition very well.
They did a great job with that. I'm feeling a little left behind with their lighting right now. It's a little bit overpriced and slightly feeling outdated and not innovative compared to companies like Aperture and, you know, Godox and Nanlite. You know, these newer companies are kind of doing more innovative things and kind of, you know, stepping up a game where Aperture has released, you know, their Nova series, which are pretty much really close to those sky panels in quality. You know, I know ARRI had like their, you know, I grew up using the Fresnels, and they've got like their 7C, 15C, you know, kind of bicolor, like whatever, like type of lights. But the mono lights from Aperture, Nanlite, and Godox are kind of just as good, and in some cases slightly better.
Yeah.
Actually, no, for the most part, now they really are getting better because of various things. But at least still, you know, they have their foothold in, you know, camera, lighting, lenses. You know, they still make matte boxes, follow focuses, and a bunch of extra accessory gear.
Aaron Bagel, 17 stops of dynamic range, or 20 stops if it were red.
Red likes to. I still remember Red doesn't even push this out anymore. They used to have an HDR mode where, like, two frames, it would expose two different exposures and it would combine them together essentially. But you would essentially get ghosting with certain action type of shots. You had to have like almost no movement in some cases with that, and especially trying to do it with 3D was a whole. I remember this conversation once with like someone about like, oh, you know, you guys are using the Dragons. Are you trying that new for this 3D show? I probably can't say too much about what the show was, but it's a movie. I say show, like industry-wise, we say show, even if it's a movie. But like they're like, no, that there's ghosting issues with that. That's a BS feature, and like I love that they just were like, oh, that's a BS feature, but like. They were using Reds, and you know, but then they were also using the Alexas, and more so on the 3D side, Alexa started creeping in more and more, taking over. And there was this whole conversation recently on one of these forums about, oh, Red bought Element Technica to buy all the accessories they were making for kits for the Red, just so that they could get those accessories and make them part of their company. But Element Technica also was bought by 3Reality Digital, so it became 3Reality Technica for 3D rigs. And 3Reality is what was used for the Hobbit movies, as well as...
Makes sense.
I'm blanking on it. A couple movies. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
Well, the live stream started early, it looks like. So we go ahead and...
Started like 5 minutes early, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, no. We get a countdown.
Yeah, we get a countdown. Well, so guys in the chat, we will keep upping the volume and stuff as we're going along. If you guys can't hear it very well, let us know. I'll make sure to turn it up. If there's any noise or anything, just let me know. And we'll kind of go from there.
I will say, though, the Alexa M, I want to say, did have like a sensor block, just like the new Sony Venices, that you could kind of take off, and like, this is before the mini, so you could basically remove the sensor block and have it separate from the body to a degree, and you had fine cables running so that you could use it in a 3D rig. And Sony Venice does the same thing now, and that's what they used for a lot for Top Gun Maverick. So I'm wondering if ARRI might ever revisit that with this new sensor.
That would be fascinating if they did. That would be. Let me see here. Hey, I'm going to say hi to a couple people. Hey, Ranger 7 Studios. Great getting to see you at NAB. He was over there interviewing Aperture, and I was in his video, went back and watched it. You can see me do the cardinal sin of any kind of video person, which was like look up straight into the camera and then walk away. So sorry about that.
Oh, I'm sure I've done that. Like, I've walked into somewhere, been like, oh shit, they're filming. Like, what? Yeah.
I do that. It's like, I'm a video guy. I should know better. But yeah, I'm sorry about that. Thomas Murphy, are we excited? Yes, I'm excited to see a camera release that I will never be able to afford, more than likely. Unless
you guys... Rent it.
I could rent it. Unless you guys like all the comments below and get me a lot of, subscribers and stuff, and then I can go test out any camera I want to. So,
Get yourself a sugar mama. That's what I'm saying. We need sugar mamas.
Oh.
Which I swear, I'm going to do that with some friends. I'm going to make the dating profile like 1980s style. Like, so I'm a broke freelance filmmaker. You want to be my sugar mama?
I did walk through your shot. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's either ARRI's manufacturing it or they do outsource it. That's information that's not really ever shared really easily. I know Blackmagic was buying basically a lot of their sensors for a while, but then now they manufacture the 12K. That is manufactured by them.
Yes, Alex. I know Tim was sending me stuff earlier this week, looking at what the different parts of your body cost that you could sell, and trying to figure out which one he could sell to buy this new camera.
I have 2 kidneys. I can sell one of those, and I think I could sell one and be able to afford 2 Alexa 35s.
Oh my gosh. Can we get Frame Voyager to say, maybe you guys give me a little super chat, maybe I'll say that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, the black market body parts, but yeah, just never say you're not worth anything.
Yep.
Yeah, ARRI can have my soul too. Or the firstborn, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there should be a section of like other forms of currency or trade that we will accept for our camera.
So do they take NFTs at this point?
NFTs.
Especially when the NFT is like crashing on everything.
Well, thank you, Martin, for just lurking here. Thanks for hope you lurk around the whole time. Make sure to give me a like on this video. All right, we got 30 seconds. Martin says maybe it'll only be $15,000. If it is, it's going to put some companies out of business.
Yeah, if they made it to 15 grand, that would put ARRI at top of everyone's list and put Red out of business.
I mean, Blackmagic might survive, but like Red would be done, right? Like there'll be a shift in the market. But I mean, ARRI's not going to do that because they don't need to. But
they don't need to, and they cater to a very different market, plain and simple.
All right, here we go. You guys let us know how the volume is. We'll turn it up when we need to.
God, those shots look gorgeous already.
Welcome to ARRI's new headquarters in Munich, where the latest camera products are designed, manufactured, and tested. Today, ARRI announces the Alexa 35, a new camera platform and the latest chapter in the story of ARRI's history. Both the new building and the new camera look to ARRI's future, but they embody principles.
Those are those lights
that
I was
have
talking
remained
about.
consistent through time. ARRI has been synonymous with cinematic innovation since it was founded in grandfather Robert Richter and his friend August Arnold. 105 years later, it is still a family-owned business that defines itself by a spirit of trust and the shared passion of all employees, the same passion that drove our founders, a belief that technology can help progress the creativity and language
Oh,
of
I love that
cinema.
old footage.
85 years ago, ARRI released the ARRI Flex 35, the first movie camera with a reflex viewfinder for accurate framing and focus. In many ways, it resonates with the Alexa 35. Both are small, rugged 35mm cameras, incorporating new technology that gives filmmakers more creative control. But as you're about to learn, the Alexa 35 does so in ways that could not have been dreamt about back in 1937.
Dear friends of ARRI, my name is Stefan Schenk. I'm one of the managing directors of ARRI and responsible for global sales and solutions. We are really thrilled that we today announce our new Super
the audio was so low.
35 digital camera. When we launched the Alexa in 2010, it was the first digital Super 35 camera that was fully embraced by producers and cinematographers and creatives on their journey and transition from analog to digital capture. Ever since, we have developed the camera system. We added software and hardware features, upgrades, more workflow options, more recording options, and additional system components for new applications and to further improve the efficiency of productions. We really appreciate how many of you have used and trusted our various Alexa cameras in the last 12 years. And every year, like also this year, we're really happy to see how many of the productions get nominated or win Best Film, Best Cinematography, have smashing box office hits,
All of
and
them,
equally
right?
important, create emotions in feature films, TV series, but also commercials, documentaries, and live events. That we offer you the right equipment for your productions is only possible through all the feedback that we get from you, our users, our customers, and industry partners all around the world. We always try to listen at ARRI, and we will continue to do so in order to further improve our systems. One area where you wanted us to improve was resolution. So you could capture Super 35 at native 4K. Well, that alone would have been fairly easy. You also wanted us to keep what everybody loved about the Alexa, which is the best overall image quality. On top, many cinematographers ask us for more creative choice, for more textures on set already. And others
I guess
wanted
so.
us to improve the highlight handling. So the task for our engineers wasn't easy. And the more we are now happy to announce today a camera that
They're announcing a
combines
camera?
all that and raises the bar, the Alexa 35. The Alexa 35 is a true and amazing successor of our digital Super 35 line of cameras, from the classic Alexa to the Alexa S6T and the standard Alexa Mini. Of course, we will continue to produce and sell the Alexa Mini LF. We're really happy to see how the large format was embraced, including our signature primes and zooms. So the Alexa Mini LF
Probably
is
gonna
here to
come with
stay
an
for at least the
LF
next
down
2 to
the
3
road
years.
anyways.
We now believe with the Alexa 65, the Alexa LF cameras, and the Alexa 35, we offer cinematographers the best overall image quality for each format. We all at ARRI can't wait to see what images will be captured with the additional creative choices of the Alexa 35 on one hand, and the huge variety of Super 35 lenses out there. And now, it's my pleasure to hand over to my colleagues, who will explain in further detail what the Alexa 35 camera system is all about.
Welcome. My name is Mark Shipman-Mueller, and I'm a product manager at ARRI. I'm thrilled to be here today to give you a brief introduction to the Alexa 35 camera. The Alexa 35 is a digital motion picture camera with a 4x3 Super 35 native 4K sensor that can run up to 120 frames per second. What is exciting about this camera are the significant improvements in image quality, new creative options, many new features that make working on set faster and easier, and a complete new accessory range. Creating the best overall image quality has always been one of the most important goals for us here at ARRI. And there are many improvements in image quality in this camera, but the four most important ones are these. First, the sensor. I have one here. This is a completely newly developed sensor, and it can capture 17 stops of dynamic range. That is 2.5 stops more than previous ARRI cameras, and certainly more than any other digital camera can. 17 stops of dynamic range can handle any situation on set. It increases flexibility in post, and the images created are the best possible source for all high dynamic range projects. Sophisticated stray light suppression technology in the camera and in our lens mounts ensures that the Alexa 35 can accurately capture the full contrast range and character of each lens, and the images show deep and rich blacks. We consider the Alexa 35 a high ISO camera. The camera has a lower noise level than any of our previous cameras, which is why you can set it from exposure index 160 to exposure index 6400. In addition, there's an optional enhanced sensitivity mode that provides even cleaner images at low light levels. For the Alexa 35, we've not only developed the new sensor, but we've also completely overhauled our color science. This new color science is called Reveal Color Science because it reveals more about the beauty in the images. Reveal Color Science is used in camera to create ProRes, but is also available through leading third-party post-production companies. Images that are processed with Reveal Color Science have cleaner edges for better green screen compositing. They have more accurate color reproduction, which means more pleasing and natural skin tones, better color tracking when severely over or underexposed, and greatly improved saturated colors, such as you may find in bright lights with a lot of color or neon signs. Images created with Reveal Color Science are easier to grade and fully compatible with ACES. They can contain the 17 stops of dynamic range from the sensor through a new log C4 tonal curve. They show improved color fidelity through new log C4 lookup tables. And last but not least, they can be intercut with footage from previous ARRI digital cameras. But even better, ARRI RAW from the Mini LF and Alexa LF can also be processed through Reveal Color Science.
Ooh.
In addition to these great improvements in image quality, the Alexa 35 also offers 3 new creative options to filmmakers. First, since the new sensor is a Super 35 4.6K sensor, it supports all Super 35 and large format lenses, be they modern or vintage, anamorphic or spherical, with large or small image circles. And it does that while fulfilling all 4K mandates for spherical and for anamorphic lenses.
Yeah, they are doing a hard sell. They're not like telling you what the cost is.
It's a new feature that can be set in camera like choosing a film stock. ARRI textures control the amount of contrast at different levels of detail and the amount and character of grain. The camera comes with a number of ARRI textures pre-installed.
It does look like it's a battery
and there
mount.
are different
It's probably
textures
B-mount
designed for
at this point.
different shooting
Everything's B-mount.
situations. ARRI textures give the cinematographers tremendous control over the character of the image. Third, new look handling features. The
Their
new
user
log-to-log
interface still
look
is not
file
as good as
format
Blackmagic
allows
doesn't look
monitoring
like.
of standard dynamic range
they
and
go
high
with the
dynamic range images
user interface.
of the same look on set, and it provides a future-proof format for post. Included in the camera is the ARRI Look Library, which has been updated with the improvements of the Reveal Color Science. Many here at ARRI come from the film industry, so we understand what it is like to work on set. The Alexa 35 is full of new ideas and features that make it easier and faster to work on any production. First of all, the Alexa 35 is the smallest fully featured Alexa. In the past, we've always had 2 cameras, a larger version with a lot of features, and then a smaller and lighter version with reduced features. Alexa 35 is the first small form factor camera that also has all the high-end features. Another new feature is the advanced color match. It is a special calibration that ensures that all Alexa 35 cameras match each other. The camera supports recording in ARRI RAW or Apple ProRes. It supports regular recording as well as pre-recording, and it offers 19 different recording formats. These are designed so every production can find just the right format, and they include time and money savers like in-camera downsampling or in-camera anamorphic de-squeezing. Here, on the left side of the camera, we have the new left side display that allows you to change settings without having to use the viewfinder. This is very useful when you're going with a Steadicam or the cameras on a drone. Below that is the media bay that takes either the 1 terabyte or the 2 terabyte codecs compact drives that are also compatible with the Mini LF.
Which is
The
super
Alexa
expensive
35
drives.
uses the
Like
same
$2.5
popular
grand just
viewfinder as the
for
Mini LF.
the
However,
1
when
terabyte.
attached to the Alexa 35, you can also monitor high dynamic range images through the viewfinder. And then there are a number of connectors on the camera, some in the front and some on the right side, that closely integrate the camera with all other gear on set. Amongst others, there are 2 SDI outputs that are completely independent from each other, one of which can be switched to return in. There's a sync in for Genlock. There is a 12 volt and a 24 volt power output connector. And there's a timecode connector and an audio connector that are the same as found on the Mini LF. So the same
it's
cables
nice.
can be
They
used.
move that
The ECS
audio
antenna
input
allows wireless
heated
control
where
for the
that audio
Hi-5,
input was on the Alexa
WCU4
Mini.
or SXU1. Down here we have the Ethernet connector that provides real-time streaming metadata for mixed reality productions,
Yeah, the
also
handle
known
is
as
kinda
virtual
basic,
studios
doesn't
or
it?
LED walls.
Yeah.
In the front of that, we have 3 user buttons, and in the back there are 2 Wi-Fi antennas that allow remote control either from the ARRI web remote, third-party remote apps, or the ARRI camera companion app that runs on an iPhone
What is that
or
angle?
iPad. In summary, the Alexa 35 is an exciting new Super 35 4K camera with significant improvements in image quality, new creative options, many new features that make working on set faster and easier, and a complete new accessory range. In addition, the camera is extremely robust and reliable for dependable working on set, a long product cycle, and a safe investment. And now I would like to hand over to my colleague Sean, who will walk you through the complete new accessory range of the Alexa 35.
Pre-orders are
Hi
up,
there.
guys.
I'm Sean Gould, and I'm the product
$75,000.
marketing manager for ARRI.
Really?
The Alexa 35 is an
That makes sense.
extremely versatile camera, and one that we expect will be used on all different kinds of productions. To support the various ways that we know people will shoot with the camera, we've come up with a big range of new and bespoke accessories, both mechanical and electronic, for the camera. The Alexa 35 is a 24-volt camera, and we made the decision early on in the design process to stick with 24 volts, as this meant that we could make a smaller, lighter, and more efficient camera. It's also really helped us get the most from our new sensor. At the time, though, there wasn't really a standard 24-volt onboard battery system, and so we partnered with battery manufacturer Bebob to come up with B-mount. B-mount is a new standard for the whole industry. It's not a proprietary battery mount, and it's really one that's ideal for cameras, for lighting, and for stabilizers. B-mount at its core can support 3 times as much power as any of the existing 12-volt systems were designed to provide. And we've introduced a range of mechanical benefits as well. So the B-mount interface here is a side-loading interface, which we know camera assistants really like, and it's very small. So when you don't have a battery on the camera, it can be as backed into tight spaces as possible, and it certainly works really well with gimbals when you're powering the camera externally. The battery plate itself is just this tiny U-shaped section here that's only 8 millimeters thick, and it's mechanically rock solid. It was designed for operators to hold while operating their cameras.
Everything's B-mount now, Elliot.
B-mount is not
Yeah.
a proprietary
I
battery
actually
mount.
am
It's
all
one that's
for
been
B-mount.
designed
I think
for
it's
the
a good
whole
mount.
industry. And at the
just
time of
super
the Alexa
expensive right
35
now.
shipping,
It is,
there should
but
be
the
at
price
least
will come
5
down.
manufacturers who
Yeah.
have batteries ready to
Anything
go on
new,
the same
and then,
day.
you know, time
By the end of the
goes
year,
by,
we
it goes
expect
down.
all
Remember,
major battery
CFast
manufacturers to
2.0,
have B-mount batteries in the
$1,200
market.
for like
For the
128
first
back in
time, with Alexa
2014.
35, we're
Yep.
introducing electronic modules that will expand the functionality of the camera body. This means that you can choose to have a very small and bare-bones camera rig, or build it out for any other kind of shooting scenario. The first module is the PDM1. That's the power distribution module. And that's this module at the back, which you can see becomes a really integral part of the camera body when it's attached. We still have the B-mount plate at the back of here. And because we're using B-mount with all that extra power, there's now 7 additional power outputs available on the camera. And the module can supply up to 150 watts of accessory power. We have a range of 24-volt connectors, and there are 2 12-volt connectors at the bottom, as well as a D-tap underneath. The second module that we have is the AEM1. That's this, the audio extension module. And for the first time since a mirror, we're offering 2 channels of microphone preamp built into the camera. This is an exceptionally high-quality audio
nice.
device manufactured by Sonosax, who are a Swiss manufacturer of other high-end audio equipment. It offers 2 channels of mic pre's, a
The
stereo
Swiss.
digital input over AES, and 2 power outputs, which would be in addition to the 2 power outputs the camera already has. At the bottom, there's a headphone output, or you can also use the headphone output on the MVF2 for monitoring. We truly believe that it is the highest quality, lowest distortion microphone preamp available on the market in a camera. And because of the versatility with the power outputs as well, we really expect many operators to leave this on their camera all the time. The Alexa 35 is designed around 2 sets. We have the production set and the lightweight set. The lightweight set is a set of accessories designed for owner-operators, for single shooters or small crews who really value having a tiny camera with not too many accessories.
A single
The production
operator of
set
an
is
ARRI?
designed
Never.
for traditional camera department workflows. So there are a lot of accessory mounting options, and there are big top handles here for grips to grab onto. Let's have a look at these in more detail. So the production set, I think at the top, this is kind of where you can see all the new stuff. So here we have the viewfinder mounting bracket VMB5. And this bracket features a single screw that loosens these 2 hinging points, which means that I can very quickly adjust this viewfinder bracket with a huge range of motion, which is very new. It's kind of like you have a medium viewfinder extension bracket built into the viewfinder bracket. The
That's
viewfinder
nice.
bracket is attached directly
I
to the
believe
top handle instead of mounting
builds,
on rods at
Elliot.
the front, which would leave your rods free for a lens motor if that's where you want to
I
run.
could be wrong.
The CCH5
2 builds,
top
not
handle
2
is longer
cameras.
and wider and more comfortable to hold than previous top handles. And there's a lot of space under here so that you can leave your gimbal mounting plate attached to the top of the camera while you still have the top handle on. Because we now have the viewfinder mounted to the top handle itself, after I've released the little quick release viewfinder cable here,
Same.
with one screw that I don't
You're
need
like a
tools
kid
for,
at the candy
I
store.
can release the whole thing in one go, which is great if you're transitioning, say, from a Steadicam onto handheld or shooting on sticks. It then
Oh, that's
slots in with
nice.
these 2 cones at the front of the new top plate and tightens down with one screw, while still being really solidly connected. Now, the bottom of the camera might look quite familiar. This is the 3rd generation of our compact bridge plate. So in the compact bridge plates CBP5 and 6, we have 15mm lightweight support and then your choice of studio rail support. So in this case, we have Studio 19 support because it's a CBP5. The CBP5 is a bridge plate and shoulder pad built in as one, so it's lighter than having 2 separate parts, and the shoulder pad is closer to the bottom of the camera body. We have a huge range of balance potential here. And of course, the bridge plate can be completely slid off to be replaced with a SAM plate. That's a stabilizer adapter mount for Steadicam, GPI Pro, Ronin, Movi, and of course, Artemis, Trinity, and the stabilized remote head SRH3 and 360. At the bottom, we have our quick release dovetail mechanism. So the middle position is for balancing the camera, which you'll notice is a lot easier now than previous designs because we've put these extra feet in that make sure that the sliding action on a dovetail plate is nice and smooth. Then if you pull the clamp all the way back, we can come straight off the dovetail plate or straight on. On the right-hand
And the
side of the
dovetail
camera,
would usually
we have
be
a
on, like, a
very
tripod
rigid
head.
side bracket here for mounting lens motors. And we have this. Now, this is the articulated mounting plate, which is a new design, and it means that you can mount a transmitter or an MDR, something like that, at the back of the camera in an area which would normally cover up the ports. Now, our second set of accessories is the lightweight set. So, doco, content, those kind of types of shooting. They're designed to be as lightweight as possible. And up the top here, we have our new lightweight camera handle, LCH1. That is a carbon fiber top handle, which can be adjusted very quickly. So this whole top handle can slide backwards and forwards so that you get the perfect balance. And at the back here, we have the BHA1, the balance harness adapter. So designed for suspension rigs like the Easy Rig, where you would put the little quick release in here, and then you can adjust the position of that without changing the position of the top handle and the viewfinder bracket.
Oh, that's smart.
On the bottom, we have 2 shoulder pads that the lightweight set comes with. The first one is the compact shoulder pad, and that is this very small, lightweight, thin and squishy, comfortable shoulder pad, which kind of reminds me of shoulder pads that you might have had.
It doesn't
for
look
a
like there's that
16mm
much
camera, which
squishiness
have
to
a
it.
flat base.
No, I
If I
mean,
slide this
I've yet to
straight
find a
off,
really comfortable shoulder
I
pad
can
though.
then
You
slide
hold
in
the camera
the
for like
bridge plate adapter BPL6,
5 hours in a day
which has
on
a
your
couple
shoulder,
of
and
unique
it hurts.
features. So one, it gives you 15mm rail support at the front here. It has a small soft shoulder pad built in. And it has this little touch and go 35 plate, which is mounted to the bottom, and that will drop straight into receivers for tripods, such as a Euro plate.
Ooh.
Also, if you take that little touch and go plate off, which by the way is mounted with 4 screws, so it's less likely to twist off and you're also less likely to leave it behind. Underneath that, we have the holes for a standard BP8 or BP9 bridge plates if you'd rather just run the camera that way. In terms of the ARRI ECS system, well, not a lot has changed. All of our hand units will still communicate with the Alexa 35, and all L-bus lens motors and other devices will also still work. But the one key difference is that we now have an L-bus port directly on the camera body, which is great if you're running third-party lens mounts which don't offer an L-bus connector by themselves. As well as controlling the Alexa 35 with a Hi5 or a WCU4, we're also bringing some new functionality in terms of camera control with the ARRI Camera Companion app. The Camera Companion app is available for iPhones as well as iPads and M1 Max. And you can control multiple cameras at the
Android
same time
haters.
through a completely customizable user interface.
Well,
There are also a number of custom functions which we haven't offered before that you can do through the app. For example, you could send frame grabs directly from the camera to your phone, or we're finally introducing a sensor flip user button, which I know many camera assistants will be really happy about.
I do like the
Camera
very simple
Companion app
setup.
will also work with Alexa Mini LF, and the Amira. And we're even introducing an Apple Watch version of the app so you can check your camera settings at a glance or even control some functionality.
That's great.
For more detail,
you can record,
make sure you go and check out our
from your
Tech
Apple
Talk videos.
Watch.
Oh,
Now
yeah.
it's over to Utsi, our senior colorist. Thanks very much.
Oh, we're going to, okay, now we're going to the color.
I'm Utsi, senior colorist
Hi.
at ARRI, and I was fortunate enough to grade some of the Encounters films we shot with the new Alexa 35. And I want to tell you about a few things I noticed while grading these images.
Monitor. I'm
And
curious
the
about
first
this
thing
one.
everyone
Are
will
they
notice
using
is
the
the huge dynamic range.
32
And this is especially
inch,
true for the
cameras?
highlights.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at the image, you think, you know, there's not going to be much detail in the highlights. But when you start playing with the image, you can pull back a lot of information and detail and color in those highlights. And this is true for HDR and SDR. So it makes the ideal
Dang, they
camera
already
for
got it
HDR,
underwater.
but it will also make amazing new SDR images possible. So let me show you.
Huh.
So on the UK Encounters film, they used the red
He's using a
LED
projector for
torchlight
color.
underwater. And when
at
I
that.
first
Oh
saw
my
the images,
God.
I thought, you know, the highlights are going to be gone and clipped. So I played around with them and I started pulling back information. And it didn't stop. Like all the information needed for an amazing SDR grade were there. And I haven't seen this in any other camera before. The second thing is color separation and all the nuances of colors I suddenly see. This is especially true for skin tones. I mean,
could
the
listen to
skin
this
tones
guy
look
do an
cinematic
audiobook.
and true to life at the same time. And all these colors, they track very well into highlights and into shadows. So if you have a face moving from shadow to highlight, it will stay the same color. And there's no need for me to repair skin colors.
Goodness, those
And
colors
the
look great.
cinematographer and me, we have more time to grade creatively. And it was really great to see that the DOPs of the short film series embraced the idea of our all new in-camera ARRI textures. Like on the Australian film, ARRI Wagner chose a very grainy texture. And she even pushed that during daytime. And this ended up with a very nice looking analog image right there in camera. One more thing. HDR has been around for a couple of years now. And for me as a colorist, grading HDR and SDR for the same project can be a hassle sometimes. It sometimes even feels like grading the same images twice. With the ARRI Reveal color science we're introducing alongside the camera, HDR and SDR come much closer together, and the creative intent stays intact.
That's
So
big.
thank you for watching this keynote. You can find more information on the Alexa 35 on our website and in our series of ARRI Tech Talks. Feel also free to contact your local ARRI office or one of our dealers for a demo or to arrange a test
Yeah,
shoot.
guys, go contact your
Developing
local
this
area
camera and working with
dealer.
a great team at ARRI has been exciting and a privilege. Moreover, this camera would not exist without your feedback and partnership. Now, we cannot wait to see what inspiring images you're going to shoot with the Alexa 35.
Okay, was that it?
That was it.
That was very anticlimactic. I have to to say. Price is over, from what I'm hearing from other people in my Discord group, which if not joined my Discord group, definitely go down below. But it's $75,000, and I'm not sure it's being released this year either.
Oh my God, I want to slap Rokinons on that. Will, are you kidding me? Seriously?
Someone wants to put Rokinons on.
Will Hahn. I'm sorry.
Oh my gosh. I mean, to be honest, it probably would look still good. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, like, even Rokinons on my Ursa Mini looked good, but like, when I've gone to DZO film completely now, and I love, like, there's more character. I think they handle chromatic aberration better. They're much nicer, more pleasing images overall. It's ironic, I promise.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'm glad. We were gonna have to have like an
you know what's
intervention.
ironic though? Someone actually did put Rokinons on an Alexa for an actual feature. I was reading about it. They shot it during the pandemic, and they were using an Alexa kind of classic type of camera, but they used the Cine DS crappier plastic Rokinons, not even the Zine. Yeah,
yeah, mine don't work. Yeah, Linus Tech Tips will probably buy like 10 of them, and then like because he just every time a new camera comes, it's my favorite camera. We're gonna.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Linus Tech Tips is gonna get it and is gonna look at it and be like, oh, okay, I actually can defend them in their pricing and all this other stuff, because like there's stuff where companies are a little bit dubious in different points.
It is only 36 Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4Ks, and what in like what 10 or 15 Ursa 12Ks. What did you think? I have to say, I am always so disappointed by like footage that's shown.
I thought the footage looked nice.
I liked that they did a very complex underwater shots, because I actually do scuba dive some and film underwater, and it is so hard to get the correct color and look to it half the time. So it's interesting to see that.
Yeah, what they showed was, I'm sure James Cameron right now is looking at that going, fudge, on YouTube. He's cursing and going, why didn't I shoot? I should have waited longer to do Avatar.
Let me see. I'm going to see if I can pull up the website here from ARRI to see if, oh gosh, I'm like, when you look up Alexa 35 on Google now, I'm like the third thing that shows up for this video. So I'm not sure if that's good or not. Let me see if I can find their new camera. I'll pull up some images.
Straight to ARRI's website, Alexa 35. Let's see, downloads, brochure. Oh, I can legitimately download the brochure now.
Yeah, I know. It sucks that someone like leaked it.
The person who sent me it, I'm not going to reveal who that was, but the person who sent me it got it from someone who probably got it from someone else. Like, once that thing leaked and started getting shared, like, it took no time to just spread like rapid fire.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it was funny because like the day after he sent it to me, literally YMC Cinema, whatever that site is.
Yeah.
They of course basically put it out. I'm just like,
I know. I was going to make a whole video. I'm like, I'm going to be one of the first people with it, because but no. Okay. Funny story from NAB. I actually talked with the guys from ARRI, and there was this like older guy I was talking to that he literally oh my gosh, I had my Ursa G2 with me filming the whole thing, and he had never seen a Blackmagic camera before. He always wanted to like look at one, but I was asking him like, so is this like some of the tech, like the electronic autofocuser? They have some interesting stuff. I'm like, would this work with the Ursa G2? And he looked at me, he's like, well, I don't know, you gotta have the right connection points and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, well, I have an Ursa G2 right here, so you want to tell me like if it would work? And he's like, oh, and he grabbed the camera, he's like, oh man, this actually has some good weight to it. I was like, yeah, they're actually pretty nice. But it turns out it actually does have some of the connection points, and he was actually pretty surprised that it had the connection points, which it's kind of funny that I guess they've never played around with any other cameras, which I guess makes sense, but
It
kind
makes
of
sense.
funny.
But, there was a period early on. They used to make ports like rig kits for other cameras. Like I remember early on with the original 2.5K, you could actually go to ARRI's website and they actually had a cage that they had designed and accessories that you could do for the original 2.5K.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I'm sure some of the engineers do get to play with other cameras so that they can, we want to make sure our accessories will still work, or maybe we can make components for it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a lot of their guys probably stay completely in their family inside the house.
I have to say I'm trying to look through some of their stuff. Low light, lower noise, higher ISO. I mean, all these images look great. I mean, even just from I know they're compressed at this point, but it looks good. The one thing I was interested in was, oh gosh, what was it? The drone cable, like that they're like saying, we should put this on a drone.
I have to say that picture of the girl on the swing being pushed by the guy in front of the windows, that for that dynamic range kind of example, that's just like gorgeous.
Yep. So, I mean, again, I mean, like to justify a price though, that's that much, you kind of have to have that, right? Good Lord, their website is complicated.
I'm just going to defend it by saying they're German.
So it goes from ARRI RAW to a debayering. So talk to me, ARRI RAW, how does that get around? Do you know how that gets around the red patent that currently Nikon is going through?
Well, basically, they have the least amount of compression ever. So basically, they're not infringing upon Red's patent. Some of the Red patent stuff is bullshit. I'm sorry. It really is. It's BS because it's like, any raw compressed over 2K resolution. That's kind of one of their bullet points in their patent, which I'm just like, honestly, yes. When they filed it, most people were barely doing HD. So, sure.
Yeah.
I can accept that then. But do you know what? It's just they're going to get a comeuppance at some point. At some point, the patent office is just going to say, this language is just too broad. We have to get rid of these specific things.
Yep.
And it has to be your specific flavor of how you're doing your compression. Because some of the language is so broad to just pure imaging, capturing, and all that kind of stuff that it's like, but ARRI does very little compression, and they do have the HDE compression.
Mm-hmm.
I am not an engineer, so I do not know anything about how they're actually doing their specific compression with regards to that. Yeah, I see patent run out. Yeah, like patents do run out after.
Yeah, in 2028, the patent will run out on ARRI. So, on Red. So 2028 is going to be very interesting for companies like Atomos and those that have built themselves on external recording, because you might not need that anymore. But I would say, okay, so interesting thing here is it looks like this is the part where they're adding that film grain in camera onto it, which they didn't really answer all my questions about this as much as I wished they did.
No, I still don't know if it's you can apply it in camera and then still disable it in post. That's what I'm very curious about. And I can't do it here right now, but I will dig through a lot of the literature they provide and all this other stuff.
Yeah, I'm looking through it now. It doesn't, because you kind of wonder if you could apply this like a LUT, like their textures, and then literally have, it gives you 19 different ones, or it gives you a bunch of different ones. But you wonder if you can like pull it back or something in post with it. But I don't know. They don't really give any information on that.
Well, there's the Alexa 35 workflow and post guide here. So I'm going to download that PDF, and I'm sure that might actually provide details.
All right, here's a durability test that they did for this camera.
I'm sure you could drop it from a 12-story building and it would survive.
So that's putting the... Oh my gosh.
What's that?
I'm hitting it with the... They're shaking it, hitting it with the side with like a
Oh wow.
cooling it, heating it
it.
up. Jeez, okay.
So
I do know like they
it
are
will
pretty
work-
crazy.
It can work in conditions that people can't.
Yes. Which I guess is good. Could you imagine strapping this to a drone though?
I mean, people. There's drones that could handle it.
Oh, I mean there are. I mean because it's not that big. Like it's I mean it's just like the red, like probably a little bit bigger than a red Komodo. But I mean there's other ones that they put on drones before that have been fine. But
And the original Ursa Mini was able to be flown on a drone. I remember the original release footage they did in March of 2016. John Brawley shot like some stuff for them, and one of the things they did was put it on a drone. So if you can fly that, you could fly this camera probably.
Yeah.
This camera's a little bit heavier, like I think it's an extra pound or so, but
yep. Oh, it's fascinating. Well,
so this is the workflow and post guide launch. It says here to further open the creative possibilities within the LEV4 sensor, we have created ARRI textures. Texture changes a set of parameters that directly influences images. Among those are e.g. grain, structure, sharpness, and others which in combination work like film stocks. ARRI textures are offered as presets right in camera and are not usable edible. I think that what they're specifically saying there, though, is like you can't edit them, like you can't change the parameters, as they're basically presets. So you're just choosing a preset. But ARRI textures are a destructive feature and cannot be altered afterwards. That is the specific language that I was looking for. So if you are committing to that texture, you need to be committing. That's the key. You know, it's not I can apply this LUT and then disable it later. No, you send that texture, you're living with that texture.
That's kind of interesting, right? Like I don't know. That changes a little bit more, right, with that texture, which I guess maybe to get that good of a look, it can't just be applied to it, but it really does have to affect how the sensor readout goes. And maybe that's how they're getting more of a realistic look. But I mean,
but again,
I don't know.
At the same time, movie-wise and TV shows, like big stuff, usually you're doing extensive testing. You know, let's face it. I mean, I remember a couple of weeks ago, I shot a thing and it was like, oh my God, you know, your shirt, we didn't anticipate this pattern. And like my buddy was using his mirrorless still camera. And I'm like, if I had known, I could have just brought my Ursa, which has the optical low pass filter, which would have solved this. But, you know, like, again, like, so you do those tests in advance, like, you know, you figure out what the camera is going to do in this situation. So you will have it that you know, okay, this is the textures we're going to be using, knowing full. It's just like you're testing film stock, essentially, way back when. Okay, do you know, we want to use the Fuji film for these specific sequences. Then we're going to use the ARRI 500T for this stuff. And then we're going to get some older ARRI, you know, different stock film for this stuff, like some 250D for this. We're going to do some, you know, and, you know, again, you can choose.
Yep. It's a good point by a Jazz Tegan here. No global shutter, which is so not really a big deal to most productions. It's YouTube talking point mostly. And I agree. Like the problem is like global shutter is a great concept, but it comes with issues. And I know, like, when we went back and talked about the abandoned Ursa camera line, which you guys haven't seen that, go check that out. But one of their issues was when they were coming out with the Ursa Mini, I believe, right? The first Ursa Mini, they were trying to have a high dynamic range and global shutter at the same time. But from what I understand, global shutter really affects dynamic range a lot. And it's hard to kind of work with the two. And there's some other issues where rolling shutter, if it's fast enough, you don't even really notice it.
No. So initially with the original Ursa Mini 4.6K specifically, part of the reason it was greatly delayed was they initially announced two features that were dropped. One was the we're going to do rolling shutter and global shutter where you can switch and you'll get a little bit of a dynamic range change. And then the other thing was the gyroscope, which, so they dropped the gyroscope. But, like in terms of that, the funny thing is that when you did the dual ISO for the pockets, that's when you got that ISO switch again. Not the ISO switch. You had the ISO switch, but you had the dynamic range switch. So one was 13, one was 12. You're losing a stop. But, so going from rolling shutter to global shutter, obviously you were going to probably, they were saying you'd be like, was it 2 stops? I think they were saying 2 stops is what you would lose. You would be at 15 stops and then you'd go down to 13 stops. That was what their hope was. They really couldn't get it to work, which I don't blame them for. I think no matter what, they did an amazing job with that 4.6K sensor. It's lasted through the G2 essentially with certain small improvements and refinements. And again, with the G2, they went to 120 frames per second and they got a faster sensor readout. And you can barely ever tell it's, other than certain instances like really fast whip pans, you might see some of it. But then especially flash photography, that's where I usually see it the most.
Yeah. Well, I could say even from my experience, like the Ursa G2, I really like it because it has such I don't notice it ever really much in there. But the one camera I do notice it in a lot is the 6K Pro when you're filming at it and you're going too fast.
The 6K Pro, the 6K sensor has a really slow sensor readout.
It does.
It's abysmal. And part of that is also it only does. That's one of the disappointments I had with the Broadcast G2. They slapped that sensor in there, and yet there was no improvements coming from a better body where you didn't get higher frame rates, you didn't get a better, faster sensor readout. That was disappointing to me.
Yep.
But nonetheless, again, like global shutter, as nice as it is, even with film, you had a moving disc inside of it where, in a sense, you kind of got almost like a rolling shutter effect with film sometimes. I've actually gone back and watched old films and seen a whip pan and be like, oh, that kind of looks a little bit like rolling shutter because of the way that you had a circular disc. 180 degrees of it was closed off and 180 degrees of it was open. And so essentially that's just rotating and so essentially when it's closed, that's when the film is supposed to be moving the next frame into place. But, again, like it's moving parts. We're talking about mechanics here. So you would essentially still have something of like that bottom down kind of rolling shutter kind of capturing the image effect almost to a degree.
Yep. Very fascinating. This is very cool to see this kind of camera stuff come out. Cool to see a new ARRI camera. I kind of felt like very quick live stream where I think maybe it's because we're Blackmagic related. We use a lot of Blackmagic cameras and watch a lot of their content. Blackmagic seems to be so in depth about how they release everything. Like they're always like, and then we had this problem, and this is how we address this problem. And so it's interesting watching others that it's like it's not as much that, but you have to go like research it a little bit more. But I mean, it was cool getting to see that. Thanks Tim for coming on. I feel like it's been a great live stream. We're going to be back because I'm sure there's more cameras to be released. And which one's going to really blow up for us, though, is when Blackmagic finally releases a box camera.
He teased it, not our box.
He did.
That's not really a tease, but it's, again, like, I'm sure they've been asked for it so much. It's user demand. It's going to come. Like it's So, yeah, I think ARRI's announcement today was great. I mean, they were straight to the point. They said what they needed to say. They went over, the new advancements to the camera, what they're doing with the accessories that they build. And other manufacturers like Tilta, Wooden Camera, all of those guys, Bright Tangerine, all of those guys are going to make their own parts and components to be able to rig up these cameras. So, yeah, I mean, I think, and they covered especially the color science and having us sit with a colorist, even though the colorist was pretty short, just kind of working through that aspect of like, oh, this is how far I can push or pull footage.
For sure. And yeah, it's going to be interesting. Jazz Tegan, I'll wrap up a couple of questions here before we hop off. But yeah, am I going to Cine Gear next week? Not this time, but you can expect to start seeing me at a lot more of these conferences and stuff, especially NAB as we're going forward, as I'm trying to show up a little bit more, be involved in the community a little bit more, and kind of get to meet everyone. So it was great. Like going to NAB was really fun because I got to, I think like 40 or got to meet 40 or 50 Frame Voyager followers. And it was fun. A little weird getting, you know, people shouting from the other side of the room, "Frame Voyager," and I'm like, you know, but
I like my anonymity as much as I can have it.
yeah, it's but it was fun to get to meet everyone and see how the community's kind of grown. But thanks guys for watching. We're actually going to be doing, just for those of you on here, we're going to be doing switching Wednesday videos to actual live streams. We're going to have some fun things where I'm going to try to have you guys actually send stuff ahead of time so we can do some reviews. I'm going to bring in a colorist. We're going to talk about video editing, like even an audio engineer to kind of do some things like that, so we can actually like work and use the community a little bit more. And including, we're going to also have some fun live streams where we rank I think Blackmagic cameras and do some other ranking and fun other video content that we're actually trying to figure out with the polling system on YouTube Live. We're actually going to have it where we're all going to vote on each, like a bracket, and the chat will get a vote as well towards it. So it's going to be fun. We're setting that up, so we'll be announcing that here soon. But stick around for exciting times, exciting content. Been having fun seeing everyone like all the new content, especially the Abandoned Camera series. But
I'm excited about this Abandoned Camera series just because there's so many that are worth talking about.
Yeah, and it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be dramatic because you can't do a series like that without some drama and some playing it up. But yeah, it is a little weird. Ranger 7 Studios meeting people from the interwebs. It's fun. It's pretty fun though. But until next time, guys, thanks for tuning in. Go out, go buy that ARRI camera with everyone's, if you guys have an extra 75K laying around, and you want to buy me one, that'd be great. But,
hey guys, your kidney can go for like 130 something grand. So,
anyways, thanks guys. Had a great time.
Thank you for having me.